Welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you for joining us for another segment. Now, we've all thought it and we've all felt it. Coronavirus fatigue, not from the virus itself, however, but from the seemingly endless news with conflicting reports. Most of the reports are negative, with maybe, just possibly, a vaccine somewhere around the corner, maybe. But one doctor says the future is now. Dr. Dan O'Brien, MD, he's a medical futurist. He's joining us here on Health Professional Radio to talk about what we can do now to reopen America now, with the help of a technology known as CRISPR. Welcome to the program, Dr. Dan.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us what CRISPR technology actually is.
Yes, this is a gene editing technology that allows scientists actually to change the DNA of an organism. So this technology, also known as gene editing, allows the gene to be added, removed, or even altered at a precise location of the human genome.
You say we can change the genetic structure of a person or an animal. We can do that with viruses as well?
Yes, the same, such as COVID. So it's really important as we look to not only this virus, but also as we look to future viruses, including even how we look at new diagnostic tests as we're trying to identify a reliable, accurate, and precise test.
Is there a way that you can briefly take us through the testing phase for COVID-19 and apply it with this CRISPR technology to an end result, a benefit?
Yes. So just kind of, from the beginning, this is a type of gene technology that detects viral RNA, and it starts with a respiratory specimen from the mouth, nose, or lungs. And to make the viral genome easier to identify, scientists convert this over to DNA. So they use a method called amplification instead of PCR, which stands for polymerase chain reaction. So this CRISPR part of the assay converts the amplified DNA back into the RNA. So the FDA is actually utilizing this in regards to emergency use authorization at this point, because this is really going to help with, the new evolution of diagnostic testing moving forward.
How do you think that this technology could be applied to a possible vaccine?
Sure. Well, I think this, technology starts with looking at the diagnostic side. And I think as we make developments in the diagnostic side, I think as we look at vaccines in the future, it's certainly going to be a very interesting point, and there's just, again, so much research, so much technology that we can be able to utilize. And I think not only a vaccine, but even looking at, chronic infections and even with the cure of cancer would be certainly interesting as we look at this gene editing.
I've heard of treatments that actually destroy cancer cells from the inside, changing their DNA, not allowing them to replicate or to attack other cells. Is this a technology that could basically eliminate the cancer cell?
Yes, exactly. Same sort of thought, with this gene editing. And as we look at cancer, again, I think the whole key is we have to find out a way to stop this mitosis as cells are continuing to divide. And just, the human body is so complex. And I think with something like CRISPR technology, it's going to be the wave of the future as we look at different infectious diseases as well as cancer, which is rampant across the world, even in this country.
How long do you think that it might take for this CRISPR technology to become, well, not necessarily widespread, but at least looked at quite a bit more?
Right. So it's come a long way. CRISPR back in even 2011, there were fewer than 100 published papers on CRISPR. Now there's almost 30,000 published papers in regards to CRISPR technology. So the scientific literature is certainly advancing over the past 10 years. And I really think, again, with this emergency use with the FDA, with these diagnostic tests, we're at the cutting edge of technology with CRISPR.
Now, with this current pandemic, as we said, all of these other diseases and things aren't stopping. They're still going on, even though we're seeing less emergency room calls for certain things. As far as CRISPR goes, there is quite a bit of controversy surrounding CRISPR technology, is there not?
Yes, just how we look at gene editing and the process with that. And I think what's important is to continue with scientific, literature, to be on the right side of science, doing it the right way, and find advances in technology that's not going to eliminate healthcare workers. But again, it's going to be another additional clinical tool for, physicians to be able to use in order to help and empower more patients to take care of themselves.
Where can we get some more information about CRISPR technology?
Yes, so there's some articles written on my website, which is drdanmd.com. And I always recommend the viewers in regards to identifying really good peer-reviewed journal articles. That's when we look at the scientific literature, it's these peer-reviewed from reliable sources is really crucial.
You talked about the FDA granting the first ever emergency use authorizing gene editing technology, this CRISPR technology. Do you think that the potential for, I guess, moving way too fast based on the pandemic, I guess, in a panic mode?
Yes, this is where it's so important to be on the right side of science. Back in March, we didn't have as much knowledge in regards to how we're going to build a diagnostic test, how we're going to build a vaccine. And we've had hundreds of years of data with the flu, but with COVID, we only have a few months data. So I think it's so crucial right now that we're getting the right information through reliable resources. And I think as we learn more about this and see that this can work with COVID, and again, as we look to the future, potentially looking at maybe a cure for cancer.
What do you think about the cost? We've got lots of no-touch technology happening now. The telehealth, telemedicine, people doing all different types of testing and treatment at home. 10 years, 15 years, maybe at-home CRISPR testing.
Yes, this would be a great point of care test. Point of care meaning you can find out right there on the spot and get a result within minutes instead of it taking, sending, hours or even sending it off to the lab. So I think with this CRISPR technology, this point of care test, this is the future. It's going to be similar to almost, taking home a pregnancy test where you have that colorimetric reading to be able to detect, are you pregnant or not? And I think the same thing with CRISPR technology, being that point of care test, whether or not you do have COVID or potentially as we look to the future, possibly, another type of, as a pandemic hits, would we have another COVID?
Reopening, phased reopening, shut it down, reopen it. What can we do right now to reopen America right now safely?
Right. Certainly the phases make a lot of sense as we pick up on the patterns, right? Just kind of almost in research, you have to pick up on patterns and trends to see what's going on. So as we look at the country, we have to identify some of the geographical hotspots. And then again, we can kind of reassess based on what particular part of the country you're in or what particular city in regards to various phases. But I really think we are sooner than we think in regards to getting things back to open.
Now, we'd like to get some more information, of course, about you and maybe some general health tips.
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to my website, drdanmd.com, to find a little bit more about myself and in regards to health tips as well.
Dr. Dan, thank you. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Dan. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/healthprofessionalradio.